This lesson explains how you can combine like terms with fractions. I'll lead you step by step as to how we can combine like terms using fractions. Take a look at number 1. In number 1, we have 2/3 n minus 3/4 n. The steps that will follow are rewrite using a common denominator, subtract the fractions, and then give a simplified expression. Let's start by finding a common denominator. In this example, my denominators are 3 and 4. So I need a number that 3 and 4 both go into. In order to think of this, I'll list my numbers that 3 goes into. 3 is a factor of 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, etc. Those are the multiples of 3. Now I'll list the multiples of 4, my other denominator. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, etc. My denominator should be the smallest number on both lists, which happens to be 12. So I need to change each of these fractions so that their denominators are 12. So for 2/3, I need to multiply
Good afternoon, ninth period.
by some number so that our denominator becomes 12. I know that 3 times 4 is 12, so I'm going to be multiplying by a denominator of 4. And I need to multiply by a fraction that's equivalent to 1, so I'll multiply by 4 over 4. My numerators tell me that 2 times 4 is 8, so what this means is that 2/3 is equivalent to 8/12. If you feel confident, you can pause the video right now and convert 3/4 to a denominator of 12. But if you don't know what to do, keep watching. I need to change 4 into 12 using multiplication. And I know that 4 times 3 is 12 because I've got 4 times 1 is 4 times 2 is 8 times 3 is 12. So I'm going to multiply by 3 over 3 because 3 over 3 is equivalent to 1. My numerator is 3 times 3, which is 9. So that means that 3/4 is equivalent to 9/12. The next step is I need to subtract my fractions. I know that I'm subtracting because I was given a subtraction sign to begin with. So my fractions, I'm taking 8/12, and I'm really taking 8/12 of n, and I'm subtracting 9/12 also of n. I know that 8 minus 9 is negative 1, so 8/12 minus 9/12 is negative 1/12 n. If you wanted to take a shortcut, you could have taken your calculator and subtracted on your calculator. So you could have taken 2 and then use your ABC button, 3 to get 2/3, minus 3 and then your ABC button, 4ths equals, and then you would have gotten negative 1/12 as your answer as well. Don't forget, if you use your calculator, that you need to use your brain to figure out which terms are variables and which terms are constants. Simplify number 2, I need to rewrite using a common denominator. My denominators right now are 6 and 9, so I can list the multiples of 6 and 9 to find the smallest number on both lists. Looking at my multiples of 6 and 9, I notice that 18 is the smallest number on both lists. So I can rewrite using that denominator of 18. 1/6 times something will give me something over 18. I know that 6 times 3 is 18, so I'll take 1 times 3 to get my numerator, which is 3. So 1/6 is equivalent to 3/18. I'll do the same thing for 2/9. I'm going to ignore the whole number of 2 right now because I don't need to change that denominator. So I'm taking 2/9 times something equals, and then that 2 is not affected by my multiplication because of order of operations, but it's going to give me something out of 18. I know that 9 times 2 is 18, so I'll take 2 times 2 to get 2 and 4/18 as my fraction. I know that I'm adding fractions because I'm told with this plus sign that I need to add my fractions. So I'll take 3/18 n plus 2 and 4/18 n. When I do this, if I take 3/18 plus 4/18, I get 7/18. So that gives me 2 and 7/18 n as my simplified expression. Once again, we could have done this on our calculators. If we wanted to evaluate this on our calculator, we would use this ABC button again. The keystrokes you'd need to follow are listed here in red. So I would take 1 ABC 6 for 1/6 n plus 2 ABC 2 ABC 9 for 2 and 2/9 n. The only hard part about using the calculator is that you need to use your brain to figure out which numbers to add if I have some terms with variables and some terms with constants. You do not put your n variable into the calculator. Please try number 3 on your own. You can use either method, doing this with or without a calculator. If you did this correctly, you should have gotten 1 and 1/12 x. Number 4 is the last problem that I'll do on this video. After that, I'd like you to do them on your own. So with number 4, the only difference is that I need to make sure to separate my variables from my constants. So I have one column for my variables, and I have one column for my constants. This is just to help me stay organized. You do not need to use a table. It personally helps me keep my variables organized. So I'm starting with 2/5 g, that's a g term, minus 1/6 g, that's also a g term. And then separate from that, I'm adding 3/10 and 1/5. So pause the video and write each of those terms in the correct column, please. The rules for combining terms with fractions are exactly the same as the rules for combining terms without fractions. I can't mix my constants and my variables. I have to keep them separate. So when I combine terms, I'm going to take 2/5 minus 1/6 for my g terms. Feel free to use your calculator for this. You should get for your g term 7/30 g. For my constants, I need to take 3/10 plus 1/5. When I do this, I get a positive 1/2. This means my simplified expression is 7/30 g plus 1/2. This is an easier way of writing the expression that I started with. It's as concise as it can be. Please complete number 5 through 10 in your spiral notebook. Feel free to use a calculator. Remember to keep your variables separate from your constants. You are following the same rules here that you've been following as we've learned about combining like terms and simplifying expressions. The only difference is that you're using fractions now. Feel free to use your calculator. Good luck!